Well, in our first story, President Akufo-Addo's recent criticism of global rating agencies of bias against African economies and that of Ghana has received some varied reactions. Economist Dr. Patrick Sumin says the president cannot pick and choose when ratings should favor the country.
And I can comfortably and convincingly say this. As the AU champion for African financial institutions and leader of a country which recently had to deal with one of the most difficult periods in its post-independent history, difficulties which were exacerbated by the reckless behavior of rating agencies that engaged in pro-cyclical downgrades, shutting Ghana out of capital markets and turning a liquidity crisis into a solvency crisis.
Dr. Sumin says because Ghana borrows from an international community, it is bound by the rules and regulations of that financial market.
The challenge with the president's position is that, when at the time that the same rating agencies have upgraded you and you've used that as a sign that you are managing your economy well, you can't turn around when the same criteria and the same institutions are downgrading you and start launching those kind of criticisms. So I think that's the problem that the president has, because you cannot accept, when they are using the same criteria, you cannot accept the praise and then refuse the criticism.
Now, moving on, the Minerals Commission has debunked claims that the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources deliberately sabotaged the community mining initiative prior to its launch. Chief Executive Officer Martin Kwekweyisi was responding to claims against the Commission in a leaked report on Galamsey. Here's a report. The report was not void of accusations involving the Minerals Commission. Now, according to the report, the Commission was in support of the Lands Ministry, which it claims was hostile and antagonistic to the community mining program, which was in the process of being launched by the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. Now, the report further claimed that the Commission was angry at the IMCIM for being at the forefront of matters concerning small-scale mining, which is originally a function of the Minerals Commission. Now, it claimed that the Minerals Commission, along with the Lands Ministry, as a result, sabotaged and blocked several community mining sites which the IMCIM had planned and were ready to commission. The report further accused the chairman of the Minerals Commission of threatening the MCE of Asante Akim Central to block the commissioning of sites a day before the event or risk losing her job. But the Minerals Commission, in a rebuttal, is debunking the claims made in the report.
How will you launch community mining in a vacuum? Every mineral operation or activity in Ghana has to be grounded in law. You have to have some approval authorization to carry that. He was not doing that. And they're going around launching that. In his report, he said he had a pushback from the board of the Minerals Commission. The man said, you can't do that. We are a nation of laws. We are a nation of laws. So if you go and have a meeting at Interministerial and you recognize that, oh, we need to give more licenses to small-scale mining, you just come to the Minerals Commission, we find the area. So, for example, the very place the program was officially launched by the president, we were informed midnight before. It was launched on a concession of a large-scale Golden Star. They called us. We said, no, you cannot say anything. This is a state program. You cannot embarrass us. If he had had recourse to us, that would not have happened.
Judith Awachitando, TV3 News. Now, moving on, the Afribank is projecting to double its total assets and guarantee to $60 billion in the next 6 years. President of the bank, Professor Benedict Rama, says the bank has reached $30 billion in assets in 30 years, aiming to reach $100 billion in the next 10 years, offering support to African economies and businesses.
It took Afribank 30 years to reach $30 billion in total assets and guarantees. I look ahead with confidence and declare that the bank will double its size to $60 billion in less than 6 years. I actually look forward, God willing, to returning for the 40th anniversary of the bank, which will be a $100 billion bank. I make this projection with faith in your trust and confidence. and also because we commenced the journey into the next 30 years on a platform of a mother that has birthed many offsprings, offering services from project preparation to market access services, and operating in a new larger continent of Afro-Caribbean.
Now, African countries will no longer have to rely heavily on the dollar as a universal currency of trade. This is because all intra-African payments will soon be domesticated with the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, making the African currency convertible within Africa. Now, PAPS is expected to save the continent some $5 billion, according to President of the bank, Professor Benedict Orama.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, in his opening address, called on the bank to leverage as critical anchor in the African continent's economic recovery process.
It is increasingly clear that now is the moment of fierce urgency to deliver on our bank's vision of building prosperity and improving the fortunes of 1.4 billion lives on our continent.
Professor Benedict Orama called on countries to own more institutions to enable the continent develop better.
Today, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System is up and running, which will save the continent $5 billion in intra-African transfer charges. It will also expedite and enable payments for intra-African trade in African currencies. It is now possible for a Gambian to buy Nigerian urea fertilizers using Gambian dalasi to purchase naira. For a young Ghanaian to pay for holidays in Seychelles using Ghanaian cedi. And for a small farmer in rural Zambia to stream her favorite Nollywood movie, paying for it in Zambian kwacha.
6 MOUs have so far been signed, including a $1 million grant for feasibility studies in the railway sector between the Afri-Exim and the government of Ghana. The 3-day event under the theme Delivering the Vision, Building Prosperity will position member countries to create resilient national economies. Nana Ekwia Mensah Abrampa, AICC.
In other news, the head of the Department of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Professor Ali Duseidu, says Parliament or any individual or groups can take the Electoral Commission to court if the EC still wants to go ahead to use the Ghana card as a sole document to register persons onto the voters' register. In an interview, he agrees the use of the Ghana card as the sole document would disenfranchise a lot of Ghanaians in the 2024 elections.
The Electoral Commission in February 2023 introduced a constitutional instrument which, among others, will make the Ghana card the sole document to register persons onto the electoral rolls. But on March 31, Parliament directed the election management body to include the guarantor system and open more registration centres.
If for any reason they think that that is not the views of the EC and they want to still bring it back, it doesn't mean what they will be bringing to Parliament will be accepted by us. Our position is clear on this matter.
But on Thursday, June 15, Director of Elections, Dr. Sribo Kwaku, continues to justify its push to use the Ghana card as the sole document for the voters' register.
If they refuse to accept the recommendations that's made by Parliament, then Parliament may also refuse to accept it to be laid. And once it's not laid before Parliament, for the number of time that's needed for them to vote on it, you cannot implement it. Getting to the election, the EC have to bring their budget to Parliament. And if EC doesn't listen to some of the recommendations that's coming from Parliament, they may decide to slash their budget, they may decide not to approve their budget.
Professor Ali Duseidu says there are other means by which Parliament can use if the EC fails to adhere to its proposal.
Constitutionally, Parliament can also decide to take the EC to court and seek interpretation on the actions of the EC and whether it conforms to the rules of the land. Or even other private citizens or political parties can take the EC to court if they believe that that particular position will not inure to the benefit of the country, if it doesn't fall in line or align completely with our constitutional provisions, especially the right to vote and be voted for, and the possibility that it could disenfranchise people.
He expects Parliament and the EC to build consensus on the matter.
To not be healthy for our democracy if the Electoral Commission and Parliament of Ghana is on a collusion course. Especially the EC in particular needs the legislature more. The EC has to work with political parties and bring the consensus of all political parties on board moving forward, especially in some of these new reforms that they want to introduce.
Evelyn Tinkma, TV3 News, Accra.
On to some more stories now. The Dean of the Diplomatic Corps and Ambassador of Lebanon to Ghana, Maha Kier, is urging African leaders to consider success in terms other than economic growth. Now, he views success as involving social advancement, environmental sustainability, effective government, and respect for human rights. The Minister of Works and Housing, Asenso Boakye, for his part, advocated for a climate that encourages investment in the private sector.
Maha Kier was speaking at the launch of the second Africa Prosperity Dialogue in Accra.
Africa needs urgent solutions. We need more internal collaborations to take steps that will create prosperity for more Africans. Prosperity in Africa includes a comprehensive approach that extends beyond economic growth. It involves social progress, environmental sustainability, good governance, and respect for human rights.
He demanded that resources be allocated fairly and that small enterprises be given priority so they can capitalize on emerging markets through value addition.
We can create a healthy environment that empowers people and ensures the first distribution of resources and promotes the well-being of all citizens. We must also prioritize the participation of micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises by taking advantage of the biggest market to promote local industries through value addition. We must push programs that develop women and young people for sustainable development.
Minister of Works and Housing, Asenso Boakye, wants the benefits of public-private partnerships sustained to spur economic growth.
We must foster an environment that encourages private sector investment in infrastructure. By leveraging public-private partnerships, we can bridge the funding gap and accelerate the pace of infrastructure development in Africa.
In politics, and flag bearer hopeful Dr. Kofi Konadu-Apraku has successfully submitted his nomination forms after trying the second time. Noble Crosby-Annan reports.
It all began when three-time flag bearer hopeful of the new Patriotic Party, Dr. Kofi Konadu-Apraku, could not submit his nomination forms at the party's headquarters. The economist, who was the first person to arrive at the headquarters in an attempt to submit his nomination forms, was turned away by the party because, according to them, he did not present a full package of the requirements.
When forms are submitted by prospective candidates, it is for us to look at them and make sure that all fields are done, make sure that all attachments are included. And so when Dr. Apraku came, there was discussions, and so he has had to go back and come again to submit full documents to complete the filing process. And so it must not be carried out there that the party has rejected his nomination forms.
While the team waited, Dr. Friakoto arrived. Upon inspection and successful process, the former Greek minister, just like all other aspirants who submitted their nomination forms, was handed a copy of the party's constitution with a call to embark on a clean campaign. Dr. Akoto, speaking after submitting the forms and reiterating his quest to revamp the economy through agriculture, took a jab at the vice president, accusing him of busing supporters to the party's headquarters to submit his nomination forms.
Say here that everybody who has come here, including representatives of farmers, are here on their own accord. You can't see any bus or any big commercial vehicle bringing in people to come and support. People have come on their own volition and of their very tight conviction. The same way I was able to bring agriculture to the front line of policy discussion, it will be the same way that agriculture will be used to take us out of the clutches of the island.
Then came the former energy minister, who is contesting to leave the party for the second time. As he submitted his forms, he bemoaned the seeming lack of a level playing field.
I can hold myself as having stayed true to the rules and regulations that govern our electoral processes from the beginning, from polling station all the way to the presidential. All must hold true to the rules and regulations. Without sounding like a fly in the jar, there's been many provocations. There have been many breaking of rules for which no sanctions have been applied. And I've had cause, even at National Council, to raise the matter. So long as the rules are clear, so long as there is total fairness, so long as we are all tempered and measured in our statements, I believe that we will have a very peaceful conversation.
Just before the close of day at the party's headquarters, and after over 6 hours, Dr. Konedua Preku and his team returned to the party's headquarters, having updated his nomination forms. He switched to a full-blown campaign, trumpeting his contributions to the party, promising reforms in a future Preku government and changes in the constitution.
After 8 years that I would have left office, we will have competitive election in selecting regional ministers, competitive election in these, and also to scale down the size of government, diversify our exports, and many others.
When asked about what may have gone wrong earlier with regards to his nomination forms, he explained it was nothing major.
There was no problem. There was a document that we did not receive that required us to send, include in our document our vision. And it wasn't, we did not know about it. We didn't ignore it, but we just did not know. So we did not bring the document, and they asked us to go and bring it. We brought it, and everything is okay.
Well, as it stands, 5 down, 6 to go in this very heated contest of the NPP. Noble Crosby Annan, NPP headquarters, Accra.
On the international front, a submersive craft that took people to see the wrecked Titanic goes missing in the Atlantic Ocean, with its crew on board sparking major search and rescue operations. Now, tour firm Ocean Gate, which runs at $250,000 a seat expeditions to the wreck, said it was exploring all options to get the crew back safely. It said government agencies and deep-sea firms were helping the operation. The missing craft is believed to be Ocean Gate's Titan submersible, a trackside sub that holds 5 people and usually dives with a 4-day supply of oxygen. It is not known when contact with the craft was lost.